What the DA is saying is that while we share the concerns that have been raised, that there is big problems in SAPS. That's no doubt. We know there's problems in SAPS. But we are a party of rule of law, and we're a party of proof. There has to be a body of evidence. And that's why we say, let's see what comes out of this ad hoc committee. Let's see what comes out of the commission. Because the proof hasn't yet been delivered. There's a lot of accusations, a lot of things have been said, but we haven't actually seen the proof yet. No one has put the papers and say, but here's the messages, here's the things that happened, here's the documentation for it,
The show is Engineer Your Life, and I'm Lungelo. KM, welcome to another Politics Are Life special. I'm here with an incredible guest. You probably clicked on this because you want to know more about him. And if you don't, where have you been? This man has the best looking ties in all of South Africa. They are a personality on their own. If you're new here, welcome. If you're back, you're coming back again and again and again. Thank you so much. It means you're intentional about your growth. You're intentional about things that matter and conversations that perhaps can be vulnerable and allow you to search yourself and find purpose in whatever you're doing in your life. MEC Martin Meyer. Before I get into your tie and your lovely sneakers, because that to me speaks to not losing yourself regardless of whatever space you occupy. How's your heart today?
Today is a good. I was very exhausted. We had a very busy day yesterday.
Sure.
And I had to appear before SCOPA. No politician alive could appear before the accounts committee, but it went well. So I woke up today, and I handle every day when I wake up. I think it's a fresh day, it's a new day, new challenges, but also new things to achieve.
Yeah.
And I'm going home today, and I'll be seeing my dogs later tonight. So that always makes me very excited. So it's a good day today.
Yeah.
Happy heart today.
You're not helping the stereotype. You have dogs. It's the tie.
Stereotypes sometimes exist for a reason, I guess, but I also try and break down stereotypes, But
sure.
I love my two dogs. They're called Toast and Syrup, two rescues, and they're my heart's content. So.
Sure. And how old are they? Their ages?
They are 5 and 4 years old.
5 and 4 years old.
Yeah.
Okay. How is a dog different to a child? Because often people with dogs compare it to having a little one. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do they mean that much to you?
Absolutely. I shouldn't be saying this, but there's a lady in my complex that I haven't spoken to in a year and a half because she once said my dog's ugly. And I do not speak to her because how dare she say that to me? So, she has apologized. Maybe it's time for me to forgive her. No, I mean, in the life I live, I live alone. So I just have the two dogs. And it's good to have that type of, and the wonderful thing is about dogs is no matter what you do, they accept you. When I get home, they're happy to see me. And that kind of, in the work I'm in, where it's constant conflict, constant battles, constant everything, and I get home and someone just loves you unconditionally. It really just helps with my sanity. Sanity and mental health is something that's very difficult in politics, and in my job. So they just help with my mental health. One of my backgrounds is that I'm a social worker, and I used to do animal therapy with abused children, for instance.
Wow.
And one of the things that always stuck with me is, if you lie with a dog, we did this with children. If they lie with a dog and they hold the dog in that position that the dog's against them, the dog's heartbeat adjusts to yours, and then your heart and the dog's heart beat exactly the same beat.
Sure.
That calms you down and everything. So just having that type of love in the house is wonderful. So I love those two naughty ones.
It's incredible because you're saying to me that in the height and the peak of how difficult your job is and how many decisions you have to constantly make that change people's lives on a daily basis, you still make time for the soft things.
I think it's very important. You mentioned it earlier, but losing yourself in politics is very easy, and losing who you are is very, very easy. And I've made a conscious decision many years ago when I started as a ward councillor back then, that I'm not going to allow this to change me. I'm not going to change the person who I am. This is who I am. And just being in touch with that. And again, I have to touch on mental health because mental health is something I'm very passionate about. and having struggles with mental health, I think it's very important just to keep in touch with what your heart is and where your heart is supposed to be. But I also think in politics, we see generally people across the world has lost faith in the system. They've lost faith in their leaders and the politicians. And I think there's probably many reasons for it, but two of the reasons is that authenticity has gone.
Sure.
Politicians are no longer authentic who they are. I think not all of them, of course. But I also think that we've lost heart as leaders. We've become too cerebral, we've become too technical, I think, and we've become almost removed from our own humanity. And that's a big danger in politics. You can be removed from your own humanity and you just see the job, you just see the result, you don't see who you're actually doing it for. So I try very hard, and it's strange to say that animals keep me in touch with human beings, but they do actually help. So I think it's just that, actually say, just keeping that softer edge, I think really, really helps as well.
You've climbed so high. We'll get back to the beginning of the journey. You've climbed so high. Being a member of the executive committee in a province means you've been trusted by the premier with a certain portfolio. In your case, it's public works and infrastructure. How do you then separate that persona with who you truly are on a daily basis? Because those two can conflate each other and you can lose yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the hardest things from a personal point of view in this job is that there is no more personal life. Going to a shop, people recognize you. Oh, they want to take photos. That's fine. I understand that comes with it. And I think it's very important for people to feel they can come and talk to their leaders.
Sure.
And then people want to talk politics, which is good. It's also part of my job, but sometimes also it's my job. I don't always want to talk about politics.
I'm just at Woolies on a Sunday morning.
Exactly. Even that can be a bit strange. I will tell there's one story that always stays with me. When I started, there were some issues with the construction mafia and corruption and everything, and I had received a few death threats. That was a very fun time in my life. And I was walking my dogs in the morning, and a white polo stopped right next to me. It was still dark. It was 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, white polos have a bit of a reputation in KZN. I don't know in Gauteng, but in KZN they have a bit of a reputation. And this guy opened the window, and he said, MEC Meyer. And I was like, okay, this is how it's going to end.
Sure.
And he said, you're doing a good job. Keep going. And he drove off. I was a bit upset with him, actually. But just realizing, so wherever I am, I'm no longer Martin Meyer. I'm MEC Martin Meyer. And that's why I say it's very easy to then lose who you are in that. And that's why I irritate poor Steve there and the people in my office greatly, because I hate protocol. I absolutely cannot stand protocol, that people must stand, people must do this, I must eat first, someone must come and dish up. I refuse to do it. I dish my own food. I walk if I'm going to go somewhere. I refuse to change who I am, because I really think that's one of the biggest dangers for us as politicians, is we get so comfortable in those things, that we just lose touch with not only ourselves but with the people around us. But it's very difficult to maintain your own self. But I try really, really hard. It's something that I'm very serious about. Something like my biggest hobby is reading. I'm an absolute nerd. I shouldn't be saying that either, but I'm a total nerd, and I love reading, and I love reading history books, and I make time for it, even if it's an hour a day, because that is things that make me happy, and I have to keep hold of that happiness. Otherwise, I'm not going to get through this job.
There's no cameras. There's just you and I, ne? Is it easier to date and be in love as in this part of life, in this season of your life?
This very sad story is I became single just before I became an MEC. My 10-year relationship ended.
Sure. I'm sorry.
No. It's what it is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's no such thing. There's no dating life now. It's
complex.
It's complex. But also in this job, and this is probably one of the hardest things for me, is trust becomes very difficult.
Sure.
Who do I trust?
Here for what?
Exactly. So, and there's definitely no orange Facebook for me, that's for sure. It becomes very hard.
Yeah.
Even friends have sort of some friends.
Sure.
Some are close, some have distanced themselves. Some will even say, "Oh, is it safe for us to come to your house?" I'm like, "Well, no one's tried to kill me yet, so I'm thinking it'll be okay."
Yeah.
This job is not great for your dating life, unfortunately.
We don't speak enough about that you're saying even interpersonal relationships outside of dating, friends, family, because the job is notoriously known to be attacked by the construction mafia, the taxi bosses, the criminals, the drug lords. They all want a piece of the portfolio that you're in, that even the people you love are fearful for you.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things is my mom is 75. She lives in Jeffreys Bay in the Eastern Cape. And at one stage, the media was every day talking about the death rates. And my mom was petrified. She almost had a nervous breakdown. And she phoned me, begged me, please, can't you just resign? Tell them no, they must find someone else. And I was feeling terrible putting my mom through that.
Sure.
But I sat down with her and I explained to her, and the funny thing is, I was actually a bit annoyed with her because when I heard I was going to be the MEC, I phoned my brother and said, listen, let's have a quick family Zoom because it's going to affect the family as well. And I said to my mom, they were all there on the Zoom, and I said, listen, tomorrow I'm going to be sworn in as the MEC for Public Works. And my mom said, oh, that's nice. How's my Batu? I said, no, my Batu's fine. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you must send it love. So my brother WhatsApp me, says, Mom has no idea what an MEC is.
Yes.
So I actually explained, okay, Mom, this is actually type. It's like, oh, that's nice, So I don't know why she's upset now. She didn't even know what my job is. But no, it becomes really hard. Families, and I'm always reluctant to talk about this because I don't want people out there to think politicians want to feel people to feel sorry for us. We chose this life.
Sure.
And I'm very aware I chose this life. And I chose it with my eyes open. I knew what the price is we all have to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And it's still very little to the price people pay every day to their work. So I'm very aware that I might come across as being a bit, and Afrikaans we say, I complain with the white bread on the arm, So I'm aware of that. But for your personal life, it's very hard. Your family life becomes very difficult. I think I've seen my mom once this year.
Sure.
So it becomes very tricky for us to balance it, but it's all about balance in the end of the day,
Why leave being a social worker and doing something that feels like it has direct human purpose and it's directly helping people to go into this jungle that has so much untrustworthiness, disloyalty, people trying to take your life even? Why leave such comfort for this?
So, I've always been quite politically aware, even through my student days. I belong to a slightly different political party as a student, but that's for another day. When as a social worker, I keep being frustrated that the systems are not in place to help the people I'm trying to help. The systems were failing us, and the systems kept failing us. And I felt, well, I can complain about the systems, or I can get involved and try and change the system from within.
Yeah.
So I went back into politics. First became a ward councillor, which don't let anyone lie to you. That's the hardest job in the world, being a ward councillor. I was ward councillor for Morningside and Greyville in Durban for 8 years. And just from there, I found that I was actually still being a social worker because it was dealing with people and trying to improve their life on a daily basis.
Yes.
So nothing much has changed. It is a different environment. It can be an extremely toxic environment. It can be a very difficult environment. People fighting for higher positions, people on the opposite side, people on your own side. And it can be a very hard life and it can be a very lonely life. But, at the end of the day, I've never been the type of person that can sit and complain and say, well, everything's falling apart around me. If things fall apart around me, I roll up my sleeves and say, okay, let's start fixing it. I love my country. I believe in this country. I believe South Africa can be this great success. I'm very aware that a lot of the bad that's happened in this country was done in my name as an Afrikaans person. I was born in 1977, so I was there during apartheid. I was 17 years old in 1994 when the elections happened. So I'm aware that a lot of the bad things was done in my name. By people that speak the same language as me and that look like me. So I feel I have a responsibility also to work towards fixing South Africa. And that's why I'm just, even though it can be hard, I really want to do my part and make South Africa just this wonderful place it can be. And KwaZulu-Natal, which is a beautiful province.
I'll start pushing now with the harder parts, right?
Go for it.
Since we're there with you saying that you acknowledge that a lot of the pain that has been brought into the country was from people who look and sound like you, there is now a huge victimization within the Afrikaans community. I'm black, so I don't exist in that community. So I don't know to what scale it goes. And I see snippets on social media and in the media. Do Afrikaans people really, really believe they're under siege and they need to be refugees in other countries?
I still believe firmly that the majority of Afrikaans people don't believe that. The majority of Afrikaans people, just want to get on with it, understand that there's a history in this country. They want lives for their children in this country. They love this country and they just want to work with everybody else in this country to build South Africa better. And that's the majority of South Africans. But Afrikaner people have exactly the same problem as any other community has. There's a small minority that's very loud.
Okay.
And that small minority, unfortunately, is causing a lot of the problems.
Yeah.
And there's organizations that's got lots of money and they throw that money around and they're doing all these things. And, change is never easy for anyone.
Okay.
And to change from a position where you had power to a position where you now have to, quite rightly, and it was always supposed to be like that, now share that power with everybody else, I mean, I can say this, and I say this everywhere, that there is absolutely no genocide against Afrikaans people in this country. Not at all. I'm an MEC in KwaZulu-Natal and I'm Afrikaans. There's no genocide.
Yeah.
Genocide's not something you think is happening. You know if there's a genocide. There's no doubt about it, And yes, the facts are still that a white graduate in South Africa has a better chance of getting a job than a black graduate. It's the facts. We're dealing with another department now where we're selling properties and we're trying to make sure that disadvantaged people get an opportunity. And it's a reality that young black people cannot get the bank loan to buy a property, while young white people can. It's the reality. I can't deny the reality. I'm talking facts and figures. These are things that can be proven. But also, I've been receiving abuse for being Afrikaans, from people on the other side of the political aisle. I've been called racist purely because I have a certain accent. So the other side's also true. There is some attacks, but again, I think that's also just a minority of a group of people. I don't think it's representative of all black people thinking that all Afrikaans people are evil. And one thing I've realized very quickly in politics is that everybody wants the same thing. Whether they Afrikaans or English or isiZulu or Tswana, they want a better life for their children, they want a roof over their heads, and they want to feel they're moving forward, and they want peace, safety, and security. That's what everybody wants. All South Africans want the same thing. And all South Africans just want to get along and get on with it. My cabinet members always laugh. We were in Hlongwane once. It was the first time in my life I was in Hlongwane. And we were sitting on the stage and the Premier was introducing everyone and introduced the MEC for Public Works, Meyer, and I got a standing ovation. There was no white people in that crowd. But they just see work is happening. This guy's actually doing his job and that's all they want. So everywhere I go, people also tell me, we don't care that you're white. We just want you to get on with it. But I'll tell you one lighter note story on that. To illustrate how people just want that. When I became a councillor, the Mercury, one of our local newspapers there, had a front page about the fact that I'm openly gay.
Yes.
And I had to go speak at an old-age home in my ward, and it was 600 old people, all very Anglo-Saxon. And the one lady said, "No, we want to speak to you." And there was a group of them in the corner, and she said to me, "Oh, we read in the newspaper that you're a homosexual." I never knew there were so many ways to say homosexual, but anyway. So I said to her, "No, it's true." And she says, we discussed this in our Bible study group, and we don't mind that you're a poofter as long as you do the job. That's what South Africans, we don't care. South Africans don't care what you look like. South Africans don't care what you sound like. Just do the job. You're there to do the job for us. Just do it. And I believe that. So no, I mean, it's not always easy being Afrikaans, especially in KwaZulu-Natal. I don't get to speak my own language often. But I still love my country, and I think there's a place for me in this country and for the Afrikaans people in South Africa.
Would you say then that your personal politics, because to me right now you're sounding very liberated, you're sounding very aware of the fact that a black person still does not stand a good chance of getting a job, still doesn't stand a good chance of getting a home loan. But your party is saying that, no, let's scrap transformation agendas. Let's scrap policies, acts that are in place to fix the redresses of the past. So are your personal politics conflicting with what your party is saying?
So on the BE one, I really agree with what the party is trying to say here, that BE has failed. It has failed South Africans. And I consider my department where the policies is not, it's the same group of contractors who are already multimillionaires that's getting the contracts over and over and over again. So we do need a new approach. I agree with the party 100% there. But, on your broader question is that the DA is like any other party with an umbrella party. And as a democratic party, we actually encourage internal debate. So we really want people to disagree. And sure. our internal meetings can get quite robust at times. We don't quite throw chairs, but we do write very sarcastic Facebook posts. And I mean, in the Democratic Alliance, I'm definitely on the left side of the DA, but that's allowed. We do allow that. I'm still a liberal, but I'm a social liberal, and many other people would identify themselves as classical liberals. But we do manage to find each other under this very important thing of liberalism about personal rights and things like that. And the DA might be a slightly bit more right wing in its economic policy, but in its social policy, there's very few parties in the world that's more left wing and liberal as the Democratic Alliance is. Yeah. But on Triple BE is that really it has failed. It's not working. It's not working in our department, and we have to find new ways of doing it. It is, but one thing is that I don't think we're always so good in communicating what we're trying to say as a DA. And I don't think we communicate in a way that people on the ground always understand. There, I think we can really improve as a political party. Yeah.
Because you guys communicate a lot, but it doesn't mean there's an effectiveness.
Yeah. I think we can be a bit academic and cerebral in the way we communicate our policies. I used to joke with people and say the difference between us and the EFF is we've got great policies that we communicate very badly. The EFF has really bad policies that I communicate excellently. And I think that's that sort of thing. So I think we do need to improve the way we sell our plans to people. But on this plan, I think it's a solid plan. I really think there's room for growth there.
But I'm thinking that BEE is not the issue when it comes to the contractors, because for the same contractor to win something, it means he's paid enough people in the value chain to be able to always be awarded the contract. It's got nothing to do with their color of their skin necessarily. Am I wrong?
No, but what we also find, for instance, is the same contractor gets a job. He doesn't actually do the job. He subcontracts to another company that is not tied by the same regulations. And they won't be following those regulations. So the company that wouldn't qualify to get the job with us is doing the job anyway.
Yes.
Because they got that money. Okay. And unfortunately, we also found a lot of these contractors are not just doing quality work. We've just had to last week stop a contract at a hospital we're building because the work was so bad, it was actually dangerous. And this contractor has been doing work for this department for many years. So unfortunately, in theory, what you're saying is yes, but on the ground, that is not what's happening. And another good example is the 30% rule, that 30% must go to the local community. Again, in theory, great rule, and we try very hard to enforce this, but that's where the construction mafia came in. Those are not people from the community. These are rich people that's benefiting from a rule that's actually supposed to benefit the people on the ground who's unemployed. So the system has failed. That's just what the truth.
What is this proposed change to the system then?
So it wants to look much more. It takes away looking at historical disadvantage and looks at current disadvantage. So it says who is currently unemployed, who's currently disadvantaged. So it tries to change that narrative from historical to present. The other thing is that also it takes a much broader approach, and it must look at things like job creation, gender, environment. Is this company doing things to prevent further environmental damage? All those type of things. So it tries to take, and it uses the UN's global measurements for justice. And it says we must look at the thing holistically and not just at one thing. So it also says that poverty is a proxy for poverty. So we must address poverty, that it's no longer the case that all black people are poor. So we must look at who really needs the assistance now, not just the color of the skin. That can't be the only measurement. There has to be other measurements too. And the reality is that the vast majority of poor people in South Africa are black. That's a fact. So if we're saying we're going to help poor people, it's going to mean in reality that the vast majority of people that's going to benefit from the system will be black. That's just how it will be.
Yeah.
And I dream that we could live in a country where we don't have to look at those things anymore. But unfortunately, we do, But the reality is race is still a very sensitive issue in South Africa. And I think, I'm definitely not one of those people that will tell you, it's been 30 years, let's get over it. No, there's no just getting over something as horrible as apartheid. We still suffer from PTSD as a nation. We still have a shared trauma. And I think maybe that's where our mistake lies, that we never addressed the trauma that we have as a nation. We plastered over it. We thought that the Truth and Reconciliation Commission will magically make us all love each other. Unfortunately, that hasn't happened. And I think if there's one thing that I'm really angry at the previous government with, or at the previous governments or the ANC-run government, is that we haven't done much about social cohesion. We didn't do much to bring people together. Some people just assumed to get together. Others just didn't serve their agenda to let us all be one. But I think that's where the problem is. We have a trauma as a country, and we've never addressed that trauma.
There's a sentiment, maybe perhaps people are scared to voice it out, and you and I can explore it. There's a sentiment that with the ad hoc committee in Parliament that is investigating criminal capture of the SAPS and the judiciary, with the Madlanga Commission, it seems to be focusing on crime, be it drug-related, construction-related, in Gauteng, but we're pretending as if people are not dying every day in KZN for the very same reason.
Yes.
MEC, what are you doing as a political leader in that space to assist in getting people to jail who are building shoddy buildings?
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing headlines about engineer from what construction CEO of that company is in jail because what they are building or the hundreds of millions they are stealing.
Yeah.
How are you practically doing anything about that?
So we started in-house first, and we looked at our own department. When I came in, there were 10 senior directors in the department, or chief directors. There's only 2 left because we practice consequence management. And we said that if you did bad things in this department, I will charge you. And we criminally charged many of them. Some of them resigned before we could discipline them. Others went for a disciplinary process and was fired from the department. So my department currently is a bit like a Hollywood event because everybody's acting. But we had to go through that process, and we're busy now appointing people permanently. So that's where we started. When it comes to things like construction mafia, we drew a line in the sand and we said, as government, we will not be intimidated by criminals. We cannot allow to be intimidated by criminals. We met with SAPS, and in the year and a half I've been in office, over 190 people have been arrested for construction mafia-related things and across the country, but most of them in KZN. That's never happened before. And then now we're also focusing on contractors. First of all, a lot of the issue of contractors was actually the department's fault. We weren't paying contractors. There was a lot of bad communication. We fixed that as far as we can so far. But I mentioned the hospital earlier, and we laid criminal charges against that contractor. And we also, I instructed the department that we must get our money back because it's not my money.
Sure.
It's not his money. It's the people's
money. Yeah.
And he was wasting the people's money. So we are now doing something that, we love this word in South Africa, consequence management. We heard it often. We've never actually seen it. And now we're starting to see it. So from our department's point of view, that's where we're really focusing now is, and I often say to people that if you do criminal activities or corruption within the Department of Public Works, the National Department of Public Works owns the prisons. You'll stop being my employee. You can go live in the prison and be a guest of my colleague there. And I will definitely not be going there. I look terrible in orange. No gay man looks great in orange anyway. So I'm definitely going to try and stay away from prison. But we just took a very tough stance against people. But I must also say this, and it's very important because it's true. 99.5% of the officials in my department, and I believe in all departments, are good, honest civil servants that just want to make South Africa better. But it's that small group of bad apples, and I'll call them what they are, they're thieves, that just brought everything down to its knees. When I came there, the department was 900 million rand in debt.
900 million.
Yeah. Now we are equal. No debt. We've cleared all our debt.
Just in over a year.
Yes, that's why I don't have hair anymore. But but we got there.
Yeah.
So so that is what we're doing. Is that we're just making sure that there's consequences for people's actions.
Someone would say, no, MEC, with all these changes, getting people fired, it's because he's making room for his comrades from the DA to come in. Are they lying?
Yes, no, they're absolutely lying. I've got a couple of things I'm very strong about. So I don't get involved in the appointment of people in the department. I refuse. It's not my job as the political head. That's administration's job. And I leave that to HR and to the head of the department. I do not appoint anyone. Senior positions I have to sign off on. That's the law, and I sign off of it. But if they went through a whole HR process and HR says to me, this
recommended,
let's recommend, I just make sure all the paperwork is done correctly, the CV is in order, that all due diligence was done, and I sign. I do not get involved in appointments in the department. I refuse to. It's not my job. I shouldn't be getting involved. That's not what we elect politicians for.
Yeah.
I'm also very clear, and I've said this many times in the department as well. Ask them, so take out your wallets. I say, I don't care if you've got a Pick and Pay card or a Checker 6060 or a Woolies card. I have my cards. I'm a Checkers guy. I have a Checkers card. You might have a Woolies card. It's fine. It doesn't matter anything. It's the same with everything else. I have a DA membership card in my wallet. You might have an ANC membership card or an MK membership card or an IFP membership card. I don't care. But the moment you walk through the doors, you're not a member of the IFP, you're not a member of the MK, you're an employee of this department and you work for the department. And that's it. I never ask people what party they belong to. I don't care. All I care about is that they actually vote. I don't care who they vote for. They just have to vote.
Sure.
Election day, I'll care who they vote for, but that's a different story. And I always tell them that there's only one person in the whole department who people should know which political party they belong to, and that's me. I'm the only person that works in that department that people should know which political party I belong to, because I was put there by my political party.
And you're a political head.
And I'm a political head.
Yeah.
Everybody else, I don't care what political party I belong to. And I honestly, to this day, I don't know the head of the department. I don't know which party he belongs to. And I will never ask him. So no, I have definitely not made space for people from the Democratic Alliance in the department. I've not employed anyone that's from the department, in the department itself. The ministry office is, of course, somewhere else, because that's a political office. So you make political appointments there. But in the department itself, the officials, no, we go through the rigorous process, and we're hiring the best possible people. There's actually vacancy for senior engineer. If you want to come back to KZN, we always welcome people, a lot of children, back to our province.
I've heard about that position. I was like, there is, obviously, your appointment came because of the Government of Provisional Unity, which is a subsidiary of the Government of National Unity.
Actually not.
Okay, yeah. You guys, one seat could change everything.
Yes.
One seat could change everything. Would you say that's why it's been easier to actually get criminals jailed, because the regime changed and the people who were protecting criminals are gone?
I think that's definitely an element of it. Also, what we find is there's a lot more nationally and provincially, there's a lot more political will to deal with issues. Like the construction mafia, there's never a political will to deal with it. Now there is a political will to deal with it. With corruption, there's now a strong political will to deal with it. And when it comes to democracy, I'm a firm believer in coalitions. If you look at countries that's further along on a democratic road than we are, most of them have coalition governments,
Sure.
especially in Europe, because it adds an extra layer of checks and balances. So that now we keep an eye on each other in cabinet as well. And we make sure that we're all doing the right thing, because now it benefits us all to make sure we do that. But also, South Africa's motto is strength for our diversity, and that's what the strength of a coalition government is. So when we sit in the cabinet, we're 4 different political parties in the KZN government, which is the IFP, the ANC, ourselves, and the NFP. So let's say we have a problem that we're dealing with. Let's say the Itala Bank, which is a big crisis, So obviously when we as the DA MEC speak, we speak from what our party policies are, and the ANC members do, and the IFP members do, and the NFP member do. And then we debate it, and then we actually realize, okay, but actually what your party is saying makes sense. In the past, if I said something as opposition, I was just ignored. Now, what does the DA go? No, we don't have to listen to him. We can do what we want anyway.
Yes.
Now they have to listen to me.
Yes.
Because I've got a seat at that table.
Yes.
And then we find the policy that works. So sometimes in departments we'll implement an ANC policy, sometimes we implement a DA policy, sometimes we find a medium, and sometimes we find that our policies are actually exactly the same.
Yeah.
That happens quite a lot more than we would like to admit, I think. So I really think there's strength in that. And by doing that, we've really also changed the way government functions in KZN. And the reason why I said we're not a subsidiary is because we are totally different negotiations. We're not linked to them. If they fall, we stand. If we fall, they'll stand. But yeah, we're going through a slight rocky patch right now, but we'll survive.
I spoke to one of your staff members and I said, Ish, will you still have your job soon? The media is saying you guys might be in and out. And how do you feel with that instability and this patch that you guys are going through? Because it seems like certain people perhaps are not in it for the right reasons, even this GPU.
Yeah.
And they will use their draw card to collapse everything if they don't get what they want.
So right from the start, when I became an MEC, I know coalitions are not stable. And because we only have a 1-seat majority as a government, I knew it was a very unstable government, always going to be. I wake up every morning, I pick up my phone and I go to myself, oh, I'm still the MEC. And I go to bed thinking, well, I might not be the MEC tomorrow.
Yeah.
The job doesn't belong to me.
Sure.
It belongs to the people. And if through the systems that exist, the people decide should no longer do the job, I respect that. That's how democracy works. So, I won't take to court and fight to keep this job. I do it for the best of my ability, as long as I've been given this pleasure to do this, and it's great, a responsibility to do it. And if it ends, it ends. I think it'll be terrible if it ends, because the political party that's waiting in the wings to take over, I think would be really bad for my province that I love dearly.
Why is the MK so bad?
Because the MK has no policies.
Sure.
The MK doesn't exist to serve the people. And I'll give you an example. One of the things we have in the legislature is that we can bring a motion as members, and that motion can then be debated at some stage in the legislature. And we were debating a motion that I brought about how we can use what government owns in our properties to fast-track rural development. The MK put in a motion to discuss whether we should belong to the very expensive medical aid as members, or should we be allowed to have our own medical aid as members, as politicians. They want to debate their own benefit. That's what they care about. So and I know many of the members there. You know, these are people that's got some shady backgrounds, shady connections, and I just really believe in my heart that it will be very bad for KwaZulu-Natal. And we know what happened to South Africa when Jacob Zuma was the president. We came to the edge of collapse. And I firmly believe if his political party, which is also just a bit of a family business, really, if they take over, very bad things lie forward for us as a province.
49% of the residents of KZN. 47 believe in that political party. Are you not undermining their intelligence and their free will to vote for who they want to vote for by saying that if whom they voted for comes in, it will be a collapse?
So how many of that vote was actually not for MK, but against the ANC? There was a big anger against the government, and a lot of people voted not so much for something, but against something. And even the DA over here has had that people vote us not so much because they liked the DA, but more because they hated the ANC, and so they voted for the DA. I mean, we're a liberal party, but South Africa is not necessarily a liberal country, but we get a lot of votes. You know. So, and I think that was what we saw very much on the ground as well. And MK's support has already waned. You know, there was a by-election recently in eThekwini, and it was a DA ward, but always a marginal ward. And in 2024, if you look at that ward alone, MK won that ward easily. And then we had a by-election there a month ago. We cleaned the floor of MK. We got over 62% or 65% of the votes in that ward. MK support just disappeared. So I don't think and also this is the thing. I will never say that I'm angry at voters for voting someone. It's their right to vote for someone. I might disagree with you. I might think it's not the right people to vote for. But I believe, you know, South Africans sit, they think, and they vote for a party. There's some parties that I really, really don't like. And if people vote for them, that's how democracy works. And I, as a Democrat, respect the fact that it works so. But me sitting there in the legislature, seeing what MK does, seeing what they're saying, or hearing what they're saying, and just having to work with them on a daily basis, I just firmly believe it will be really bad for us if they get power. And I often remind them, the system works as 50 plus 1. Yes, they got 47% of the vote, but the GPU's got 50 plus 1. And that's how the system works.
Excuse me. There's a public sentiment that the DA is very vocal about corruption, very vocal about holding politicians accountable, especially from other parties, especially the ANC. You guys are in a GNU, but you are able to still from within hold ANC people accountable. The member of parliament who's in higher education, I think her name is Karabo. She's been very active in holding Minister Nkabane accountable to the extent that she left her job. But it seems like the DA is just quiet about what's happening with the SAPS capture. The ad hoc committee is going on, the Madlanga committee is going on, and this is the most silent the DA has ever been. Why is the DA seeming like it's siding with the criminals?
So, I mean, I can't comment too much on that because I'm not very involved in what happens in our national branch of the party. You know, I'm very focused what happens in the province. And I know Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi well. I work with him quite often. You know, we have to work together. That's just the nature how things are. But I know people like Ian Cameron, who's the chairperson of the Police Portfolio Committee. You know, he's an activist from his background, and I know he's been very vocal and active on these things. But what the DA is saying is that while we share the concerns that have been raised, that there is big problems in SAPS. That's no doubt. We know there's problems in SAPS. But we are a party of rule of law, and we're a party of proof. There has to be a body of evidence. And that's why we say, let's see what comes out of this ad hoc committee. Let's see what comes out of the commission, because the proof hasn't yet been delivered. There's a lot of accusations, a lot of things have been said, but we haven't actually seen the proof yet. No one has put the papers and say, but here's the messages, here's the things that happened, here's the documentation for it, you know. So I think, you know, maybe the DA is being a bit silent. Like I said, I'm not on the national platform, so I can't really speak on that. But we've always been very vocal that SAPS has to be reformed. And one thing, and I know General Mkhwanazi agrees because he actually said that in the portfolio committee the other day. One thing a DA was very vocal on, and we're becoming more vocal because this actually proves what we've always been saying, is that police should be devolved to the provinces. The provinces should be running the police services within the province, not national. Because if that happened, then we wouldn't have been having many of these problems where you have a very small corrupt few up high and it then filters down to everywhere. If it was the provinces, we wouldn't have had that problem. But also, you can't have one policing policy for the whole of Africa because the Northern Cape and KwaZulu-Natal is not the same place. We're in the same country, but it's not the same place.
The dynamics are very different.
Very different, and the way we do the crime is very different. So we really say we need to be able to decide our own policing policies, run the police force within KwaZulu-Natal for the benefit of KwaZulu-Natal within its own circumstances. And a good example is the Western Cape, where the number of police officers that deployed there by the national government has been dropping over the last 10 years dramatically. Yet the crime, the gang violence in the Western Cape is massive. So everybody blames the DA, but we don't control the police. The national government controls the police. So we're just saying that actually, I'm a federalist at heart. I believe in devolving as many powers to the provinces as we can, and I think that's a very good example that if we allow provinces to actually run policing within that province, we'll see a huge improvement in how policing is done in South Africa.
But isn't there danger of then the differences in how probably provincial commissioners run their provinces going to further bring back like the racial segregation issues we had in the past? If a certain province is more prone to being racist, they're going to attack black people more. They're going to attack minorities more. Let's say a provincial leader or a provincial commissioner doesn't believe in gay rights, and all of a sudden they start being stricter on gay people. Yeah. Aren't we allowing room for that? Because as soon as we start touching people's rights, we're bringing Absolutely. In issues.
We still have one constitution, and that constitution counts for everyone. So whether you're a police commissioner in KwaZulu-Natal or in Gauteng, still the same constitution. And I think there will have to be still national bodies like IPIT that has the overarching role. So if there's any violations, that won't be handled in the province. That must be handled nationally. So that I firmly agree with. But the constitution is ultimately what guarantees our rights. And that's what will still bind all police commissioners, all provinces is bound by this one constitution. And there's a lot being, and actually that's the most important point about MK that I forgot. MK has been vocal that we must abolish the constitution. They are against the constitution, and this is their policy. It's not something I'm making up. They've said it many times that they're against the constitution and that we shouldn't have the constitution of South Africa. Now, if that is not a big red flag, then I don't know what is. They have a party leader that has said homophobic things in the past. And this is also for public record. 3 times now, when I've spoken on LGBTI rights within the legislature, the MK has been shouted homophobic remarks at me and at my, there's another,
really?
Yeah. There's another openly gay member of the legislature. It's also from there, Kealeboga. He's been quite active lately after the Nkunu incident on TikTok about this as well.
Yes.
And he gets homophobic things shouted at him all the time by members of the MK party. Now, I'm not saying MK party as a whole is homophobic. Of course, I can't say that, but there are members there, and it's being tolerated. But if you have a party that doesn't believe in the constitution, then you're going to get that. That is the natural outcome of that.
Would you say the DA is the party that believes in the constitution the most in this country?
I think one of the reasons, and that's what we said, that's the measure for us which parties we will go into a GNU and a GPU with, is we say parties that respect the constitution, those are the parties we will work with. So that's why I mean, I've been opposing the ANC for many, many years, but the ANC was there when the constitution was written, and I think in its core the ANC believes in the constitution of South Africa. The IFP definitely believes in the constitution of the Republic of South Africa. So while the DA is we one of our identities that we see ourselves in is that we're a constitutionalist party. But I don't think we mean we're the only party that believes in the constitution. I think the vast majority of political parties within South Africa actually does believe in the constitution and want to enhance the constitution. But MK most definitely does not believe in the constitution of South Africa.
Sure. We're nearing the end of our conversation, but I have to ask this. Do you still believe in Cyril Ramaphosa as your president?
He wants to get me fired. Listen, I don't agree with everything that President Ramaphosa is doing. And I think if you look at where South Africa is right now, we're not in a good space. And I don't think we're moving forward in the pace we should. But he is the elected president. I respect him as a president. And I will always see him as the president of South Africa until the people of South Africa decides otherwise.
If Martin had to choose a president, who would it be?
I did not vote for Cyril Ramaphosa, so I can definitely give you that. You know what? Ultimately, I think it's time for us to also talk of maybe changing the system in South Africa. Because right now we don't elect our president, we elect a political party. And I think maybe we should have that discussion. Should we not be directly electing our president and then elect the parliament separately, you know, like many other countries do? And I think maybe then that could also bring some more balance in. So I think that's a conversation we should be having. Let's rather directly elect our president and people can directly say, I want that person. Because the problem with voting for a party is, take me as an example. No one voted for me to be the MEC. But here I am. I'm the MEC. If I ran to be the position, I probably wouldn't have won, you know, in KZN. But here I am. And it's the same with the president. Now we voted for a party, and we voted because he was the leader of the party, so people voted for him to be the president. The party could remove him tomorrow. And someone else could be the president. That party decides that's the president. And now what? We never voted for that person, you know. So I do think the system maybe we should really look at. But that's above my pay grade. I'm a bricks and mortar guy. I build ugly beige buildings. That's what I do for a living.
Safe answer. Actually, very safe, because I'm intrigued that you didn't mention your own party leader. But anyway.
No. I mean, listen, I'm also very aware that the DA we're not a 50+1 party.
Sure.
We're a 25% party. So it would be disingenuous for me to say, yes, John must be the president because he didn't get the majority.
Yeah. If you were president for one day, what's the first thing you're doing?
I'll change all the curtains. No. You know what? I think one of the first things I would do is most definitely just put a focus, make sure government focus on social cohesion. We're not going to go anywhere if we don't get along and find each other as South Africans. And I still think that's one of our major crises. And then the rest of the focus would be on the big challenges, which is healthcare, crime, and unemployment. And I think, you know, we talk these things, but I still don't see us actually focusing on that and finding that. But here's something that I feel very passionate about. Over the last 30 years in South Africa, government has become really good at talking. Says me who's been talking for an hour. But we've gotten extremely rubbish at listening. And I try very hard to be a listening MEC and a listening person in my job. And I tell people, just come in and come and tell me what the problems is. And come with solutions. You know, tell me what you think the solution should be. Because people on the ground know what the solutions are. They know the problems. I can't tell people on the ground what the problems are. And I think that is one thing that if I'm president, I'll try and change the system to say, but we as government need to actually start listening to our people. I think a lot of the violence we're seeing, a lot of the unrest we're seeing, a lot of the unhappiness we're seeing, it's because people in South Africa and across the world, that's why people like Trump get elected. So across the world, people just believe now that our leaders are not listening to us. And I think that's where we need to bring the change in.
MEC Meyer, last but not least, is there still hope for South Africa to be fixed?
Yes, absolutely. South Africa, I believe in that hope, and I believe South Africa will be fixed. We are the most vibrant country. We're a country with people that find solutions to problems. We're a country that peacefully overcame one of the most horrible, evil systems in the world. And we overcame it. And we did it mostly peacefully. We have always shown a willpower that when there's serious crises, we can overcome it. And we have done it. But every time we've overcome something like that, it's when we actually found each other and worked together.
Sure.
That's when we do it. So yes, I believe in South Africa. Otherwise, I might have been on one of the 44 people on an airplane, but I definitely didn't go. Although I don't think people like me are
allowed.
I don't think I make it. But no, most definitely, South Africa is my home. Interestingly, that and this will definitely trigger debates with some of the people on the other side of the aisle. My ancestor moved or came here on a ship in 1682.
Sure.
This is my home. I know no other home, and I don't want to know no other home. This is my home. And I have a responsibility to this home, and I love it here, and I believe South Africa can be one of the greatest countries in the world.
MEC Meyer, thank you.
Thank
It's
you
been
so
an
much.
absolute privilege. Where can you get your tie?
This is going to be very, very sad and quite embarrassing. My mom made this.
That is cute.
So I can take orders for her. But most of my other ties, there's ladies in Durban, that make ties. As I said, that's got a wonderful little business and you can order online, and there's some local markets where I buy it.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah.
most of my ties. But this one, Mama Meyer, they made this one.
The show is Engineer Your Life, a Politics Are Life special with a member of the Executive Committee of KwaZulu-Natal Province, MEC Martin Meyer. Thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this very insightful conversation with a friend, a family member, or even a colleague. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.